Welcome back to the Junkman's Adventures, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to restore one of my old Hot Wheels. Now this was one of my favorites when I was growing up, and I gave it to my son, and it seems like it's one of his favorites too. So I decided I'm going to restore and customize this Ramblin Wrecker Hot Wheels from 1977. As you can see, I did a little bit of customizing myself back in the day with some of my model paints. It was pretty beat up, so I thought I wanted to paint it silver and red, and I painted in the headlights and taillights, as you can see here. So I guess I'm just kind of carrying on the tradition of customizing my toys. Don't forget to stay tuned at the end of the video to see some bonus material on an upcoming project. Alright, let's get started with this restoration. First, I'm going to drill out the posts using about a 5/16 bit. We're going to drill the posts out so then we can take the base off. Then I'm just going to take a screwdriver and lightly pry the base off. I want to be very careful because this base is plastic, unlike others that are cast, and it just pops right off. Now I'm going to drill and tap the posts so I can reassemble this later. I'm using a 256 tap right here for some 256 button head screws. Want to be careful tapping these. Those taps are easy to break. Now with the small button head screws, I'm just going to install them right now so I don't get any paint in there and I don't forget about them later. Now let's take out the interior, and looking at the base, looks like there's a bit of rust and dirt and grime in there, so we'll wash that out later. But I'll take the interior out and then work on getting the truck bed out so we can work on that later. Windshield looks in good shape, just clean that up, probably polish it real quick. Using a screwdriver, I'm just trying to pry the bed out. It's wedged between those fender wells and the base of the casting. And I just worked on it a little bit and it slid right out. And obviously this is a wrecker body, and the A-frame broke off many years ago. So we're going to turn this into more of just like a roadside service truck. Alright, applying my paint stripper here, letting it set. And I decided to, after just about a minute, to try to scrape off the first layer of paint that I put on to see if I could see the graphics or how much of the graphics were underneath. But it looked like my stripper is working too quickly and it's just taking them all off, which is okay. Now after everything's washed up and the body was washed with mineral spirits to get rid of all the paint stripper and then soap and water to get rid of the mineral spirits, everything's nice and clean. And we're ready to move ahead with some paint and touch-up. But the first thing I want to do is deepen some of the panel lines, and I'm just using one of my dental picks here that usually I use for taking out O-rings out of different things I'm working on. This casting is very detailed, and I wanted to accentuate the panel lines and some of the moldings, so when we paint it later, they'll stand out more and look at least a little bit more realistic. I also wanted to really work on the line between the cab and the service body just to make sure that it looks a little more realistic, because there would be a space there. And same with this little toolbox door that's molded into the sides. Now I'm just going to take a little triple-aught steel wool and just go over the whole body, mainly to take off any little residual paint and a little bit of oxidation. We don't have to make this perfect because we're going to prime this and paint this. And this has had a lot of play, so there's some dings and things that we're not going to necessarily get out. We just want a nice clean base so our primer will stick as well as it can. Now I noticed a little bit of casting flash around the windshield area here, so I wanted to just work on that a little bit. And I'm just using a common old nail file. It wasn't that bad. I would probably need to use a metal file if there was some really heavy flash going on here. But I just wanted to just kind of even it up and take out the rough edges from the original casting. And now I'm using some Tamiya fine primer just to prime a little bit. Not too much, just some light coats here, just to cover the whole body for a nice ground coat for the base coat to be applied over. Now that the primer has dried, this is what it looks like, and you can see those panel lines are real detailed. Now while that's all drying, I'm going to touch up the chrome with a chrome pen here, because it's been chipped off from years of play. These chrome pens are really great because they look almost like the real plated from the factory. You almost can't tell the difference. And I wanted to touch up the dual side exhaust. That's one of the things I always liked about this model. It kind of like a hot rod wrecker, in my opinion. Now moving on to the surface bed, it's cast in a blue plastic and there's a lot of detail in here, so I want to bring out a lot of those details. So I decided to use a gray paint, and I'm brushing it on because I didn't want to lose some of those fine details, and also it's just easier to apply. There's not that much to do here. But I wanted to use a light color because we're going to accentuate all those little details. And this is one of the things I really liked about this model when I was younger, because it felt like more like a real vehicle. And I think this is why my son likes it too, because it has all these little details that you can see here. And we've chosen some different colors and that contrast each other. There's a battery, some jumper cables, a jack, and a star wrench, and even a little tow chain hanging out of that toolbox there. Then I decided to use my chrome pen again to chrome plate the headache rack just above the winch there. Now we're going to move on and fill in the turn signal and marker lights. If you remember at the beginning, I did this when I was younger using yellow. Now we're airbrushing the color code, and this model I always felt needed to be kind of a powder blue, and that's what I wanted to see. So that's what I put into my airbrush. We're going to put some light coats on this. We don't want to put too much paint and lose all those panel lines. And now I left this in. This is actually kind of a mistake. I was going to do the trim in this dark blue, similar to the original model, and my hand was just being too shaky. Normally I'm better at this, and you can see it just isn't looking very good. So I'm ending up redoing it, but you can see my hand is shaking, and my fine tip Sharpie just isn't doing it for me. So you'll see what I did is I took it off with some rubbing alcohol and started over, and actually I'd call this a happy accident because I really like the solution I came up with instead of doing that. I decided to inlay a two-tone paint job, which is very similar to how a lot of these trucks originally came from the factory anyways, so actually this looks a lot better, I think, than what I was originally going to do for this truck. And with my paint pen, I'm going to accentuate the little door handle on that toolbox. And I'm also going to simulate a door handle. Even though there's nothing in the casting, I'm just going to tap a little bit there just to give the simulation of a door handle. Now I actually did this a little out of order. I forgot to accentuate the cab lights and everything before this first coat of clear coat, but you'll see in the subsequent shots that I did fill in those, but I did do some of the marker lights and other things. So I put this one coat on, went back through, and then put the second coat on, and there you can see it. Here's all the pieces, and we're pretty much ready to go back together. Now sliding the body back in there is a little tricky because it's kind of a tight fit, and then I'll have to touch up just a little bit of paint. You'll see that in the final product there. As you see it chip just a little bit. I kind of expected that, so I just had to do a little bit of touch up. Now we'll put the windshield back in. Off camera I polished the window a little, but it really wasn't that bad. And then just snap the base back onto the body, and then we'll install our 256 button head screws, and we'll be ready to call this model just about done. And here's the finished model. What do you think? Leave me a comment. Tell me what you'd do different. And I'd love to hear your stories about your old Hot Wheels memories. Anyway, I had a fun time doing this project, and my son loves it. And so do I. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for a little bit of bonus material on a future project that's coming up. Now, since you stuck around to the end of the video for the bonus material, what am I going to do with these Ertl, Tamika, and Matchbox broken cars? Well, in the past I've made some small dioramas using Hot Wheels and Matchbox and these small scale cars. Well, these are ones that are broken, missing parts, been stepped on, or beaten with a hammer that I'm going to make into a little junkyard diorama. This will be a future project, so subscribe, ring that bell for that next video. And thanks for watching.